Hey, my friends, it is time for another installment of Jed and the Junkyard War. It's been a while since I've been reading to you, so let's get caught back up. We left at kind of an exciting spot. Jed has been cooking for everybody, and they like his cooking. There is a stowaway on the ship that came from Jed's grandfather's ship. She knows about the relic, the watch that Jed wears on his wrist. The captain now knows about the stowaway and the relic. They were the guy that they were trading things to, the peddler that they were supposed to get some parts for the ship, wanted the relic, and Jed wouldn't give it to him. The captain didn't make him, but now the captain's kind of mad at Jed because then they didn't get the rest of the stuff that they needed. They're back on the ship, and they got Riggs, who also is really interested in that with all his different pairs of glasses on, to read it. And they've realized that it's a treasure map. And it says, Jed said about the Shay, the stowaway girl, she said the hands would move when they're ready. At his words, Captain Bogg perked up. It shows a time and a place, yes? Riggs nodded. Enchantment glittered in the captain's eyes. It's a treasure map. The three stared in silence at the watch, and then the hands began to spin. Chapter 17. The six hands slowed and settled into place. New symbols, new township, new time. Where is that? Captain Bogg asked. What does it say? Riggs swapped glasses. Dawndrake territory, 7th sector, 8 o'clock. The captain pulled a chained watch from his coat. 8 in the morning or 8 at night? Jed asked. It's already past 8, the captain said. Must be evening. He stuffed the watch into his pocket and strode from the quarters. Sprocket! New heading! Jed and Riggs followed. Where to, Captain? Sprocket asked. How close are we to Dawndrake? 10 hours, maybe more? The captain checked his watch again. And if we run hot? Riggs shook his head. Without those replacement capacitors, I can't burn Bessie far past 40% for a 10-hour cruise. She can sprint 95% for 3, maybe 4 minutes. Then the engines will fail. Then we'll explode. Then we'll plummet and hit the junk, where we'll explode again. Okay, I get it. What will 40% get me? Captain Bogg asked. 9 hours. Sounds about right, Sprocket said. 9 hours then, let's get moving. Riggs and Sprocket headed off in opposite directions. Kaiser marched over. Sir, Dawndrake is the opposite direction of Skova. What about the dig site? Change of plans. Seems we might have ourselves a treasure map. A what? Jed here. Kaiser's face tightened. So it's Jed now. What happened to Golden Boy? I'm hoping he turns out to be a golden boy. He's getting inside your head. If that piece of scrap's telling us where to go, it's a trap. Sprocket, the captain shouted. Make sure the shatter kegs are charged, just in case. Aye, Captain. The captain looked at Kaiser. Better? This tug couldn't defend herself against a broken wasp using slugs as scatter keg fire, let alone a full dreadnought. Captain Bogg frowned and patted a loose plank in a nearby wall. He doesn't mean that, sweetheart. Just a bit upset is all. Kaiser rolled his eyes. Captain, we can't. Kai? Captain Bogg held up a hand. Leave it. We're going to Dawndrake. Yes, sir, Kaiser nodded, but the muscles in his neck were stiff and the motion was awkward. Jed, the captain said, once out of earshot of the crew, take me to the stowaway. Jed's stomach clenched. Shay was probably alone in her corner, trying to open another can of food. Remember that you agreed to... If you remind me what I agreed to once more, I might just have to forget. Now go. Jed walked down the stairs to the mess. I should go alone. I don't want to spook her. 2 minutes, then I'm coming down. Jed scrambled into the innards of the ship. Not like the captain could fit between the pipes down here anyway. Inside the stowaway cabin, Shay hummed softly to herself. She was dragging the charcoal stick in circles on the floor. over and over, thousands of black circles. "Hello again," she said in a bright voice without looking up. "Hi, it's me." "I know." He glanced at the lemon, still in perfect detail on the wall, then at the other pictures around the room. "What are all of these?" "Pictures." Something about that lemon. He couldn't stop staring at it. Why? Why did she draw a lemon? What do they mean? The question was too vague, of course, especially considering who he was asking. He braced for another evasive Shay remark. She stopped making circles and looked up. "They're what's inside me." "Inside how?" "Sometimes I feel like there's something stuck." She looked at her torso. "I can't stop thinking about it. It just stays in there, banging on my belly, saying, 'Get me out of here, silly girl.' And so I paint it out." "Sometimes I feel like that too," Jed said without thinking. "You do?" He was nodding before he realized it. And then words he never intended to say spilled from his mouth. "I make things too. Food. I cook food." His mind flashed to Lemon Saturday. Lemon poppy seed donuts. Every Saturday for months. I had to have them. I had to. If I didn't, well, I didn't know what would happen if I didn't. His mind felt dizzy. No, blurry. No, that wasn't it either. "Did I say all that out loud?" he asked. "About the lemon poppy seed donuts?" "Yep." Her eyes were filled with wonder. It was an eager look, almost thrilled. "What does that mean?" Jed asked. "How am I supposed to know?" He looked at the lemon on the wall. "That. You drew that." He reached into his pocket for the lemon. She looked from it to the picture on the wall. "Mine needs more yellow, doesn't it?" "Why did you draw it?" "I told you, it was inside of me. Let me out, Shay, let me out." So I let it out. 3 heavy stomps rattled above, and dust particles fluttered from the ceiling. Jed pointed up. "I had to tell Ugly Mouse about you." She nodded. "Will he put me in a cage and hit me with pipes?" Jed's heart sank. "No," he said quickly. "He promised he wouldn't hurt you." So did Captain Butterfly. Jed winced. He knew nothing about his grandfather, but he couldn't imagine the man caging and beating a helpless girl. "I don't know anything about what happened with Captain Butterfly, but I won't let this captain do that. You can trust me." She studied Jed, studied the lemon in his hand. "You're different from other mice." "I am?" Her lips turned up in a mischievous grin. "Quite different. Not like Captain Butterfly at all, are you?" "I wouldn't know. I never knew him." "Why would you?" Still smiling, she bit her lip. No, not like other mice at all, are we?" More stomping, more dust. "We're coming," Jed called. "Come on, I need to get back up." "Okay." She crawled after him. Captain Boggs stood by the trapdoor, one hand on his hip, the other holding his watch. "Did you pause for a nap?" Jed took Shay's hand and helped her up. "This is Shay." He adopted his most sympathetic voice. "She's the only survivor from the steamboat. While she was there, the crew locked her in a cage and beat her. She's been stuck in a tiny space on the ship and has probably had barely any cans to eat for days." "Cans? As in our cans? A stowaway and a thief? No wonder they beat you." Jed glared. "Actually," Shay said, "I had plenty to eat. Lots of cans up here. Delicious cans. Peaches and blackberries and pea soup. Yum! But," she held up a finger, "I only ate when I was hungry. Or wanted a treat. Or didn't have anything else to do, like draw pictures on the walls of your boat." Jed held his breath. A smile filled the captain's face. He was either amused or about to announce something threatening or painful. From Jed's experience, it was usually both. But he simply folded his arms and nodded, the awkward smile still plastered on his scarred lips. "Do you have any more blankets?" she asked. "I took one from the big room with the pretty paintings, but it has a hole in it." She connected her thumb and finger to make a ring, like a mouse nibbled through. "Yes," Captain Boggs said. "I know the blanket. A hole like this?" He spaced his fingers a coin's width apart. Exactly. That's my blanket. Well, it's not very comfortable. You should wrap disobedient mice inside it to punish them. Captain Bog tilted his head as if considering the idea. I'll keep that in mind. Yes, keep it in mind. He studied her for another moment. You know, you oddly remind me of... He stared into her eyes. Of... He shook his head, unable to finish the thought. Of your blanket? She asked. His face lit up as a rare and mirthful laugh escaped his throat. I was going to say, my daughter. Jed looked up. You have a daughter? No. He didn't meet Jed's eyes. Is she dead? Shay asked. How did she die? Captain Bog took a slow, steady breath. She was taken. By the wicked scritchlings? By the dread. Did they turn her into one? She asked. He scratched at one of the thick scars on his chin. She eyed the motion and cocked her head. Did you try to rescue her? Is that how you got all those scars? He stopped mid-scratch. You're a smart girl, Shay. But there were too many, weren't there? You couldn't stop them all. Too many wicked scritches. You seem to know a lot about those creatures. She leaned closer and whispered, They're looking for me. They want to catch me. She leaned back and grinned, the volume returning to her voice. But I'm too sneaky. Sneaky like a mouse. Stupid scritcherings look and look, but they're too clumsy to catch mice. Why do they want to catch you? The captain asked. Shay smiled. I like you, she said. You're a smart mouse. I bet you're a fun mouse. Captain Bog looked at Jed. What do you think, Jed? Am I a fun mouse? Oh, tons of fun. I've never had so much fun. He even threw me a funeral party. Shay clapped her hands. I knew it. I knew it. I do love fun mice. Captain Bog drew a deep breath. So, he said, and then exhaled all at once, Jed here says you know something about his watch. Oh, yes. He told us that you said it could make someone stronger. Nope, she said. That's not what I said. No? I said it could make you very strong. Mouse King. Mouse King of the whole junkyard. How? It leads you to treasure. Captain Bog's eyes brightened with an I knew it expression. Riggs knows where to go, he said, but how will we find the treasure when we arrive? She laughed with a squeak. You don't need to find the treasure, silly. It will find you. A new side of Captain Bog that we've not seen before. So, chapter 18. Captain Bog cleared his throat. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Shay. She stepped forward. The crew looked at one another. Kaiser cocked his head. I don't understand. Where did she come from? Is that what you traded from the tinker? The captain's eyes shifted and he cleared his throat again. She was part of the steamboat crew. She snuck on board when we landed. Chatter swept through the crew. She what? A stowaway? How? She's been here the whole time? Where was she hiding? Who is she? What are you going to do with her? The captain waved both arms in the air. Everyone calm down. We're not doing anything with her for now. I made a deal with Jed that... Jed, of course, Kaiser mumbled. It seems we found ourselves a bit of luck, the captain continued. She, Jed, and Riggs gave us a location that might lead to treasure. Treasure? What treasure? Where are we going? How do you know they're telling the truth? Everyone, shut your mouths long enough for me to speak, the captain yelled. The tinker offered Jed 20,000 batteries for his little wristwatch. And don't all you start babbling again, he said before the chatter could continue. It's given a heading, and we're going to go see what's worth 20,000 batteries. All right? With that, Captain Bog turned and walked away. After a barrage of questions and awkward introductions, a feeling of excitement buzzed through the ship. Pobble played bright songs on his fiddle, Riggs whistled in the engine room, Sprocket spun shatterboxes on her fingers for hours, and even Kaiser seemed to forget how much he hated Jed. After a song-filled day of flight, Sprocket called from the lookout. We're coming up on the coordinates, Captain. The crew gathered at the front of the ship. Jed gripped the railing and peered all around. The junk didn't look any different from any other junk. Nothing stood out, not in the air and not on the piles. The watch's hands stood still. "Slow to 1/4 speed," Captain Bogg called. "1/4 speed," Sprocket said. The hum of the engines wilted to a low rumble, and the ship slowed. Captain Bogg scanned the sky. He took out his own watch and grumbled a single, "What time do you have, Riggs?" he asked. Riggs removed a rusty pocket watch. 7:58. Captain Bogg's lips scrunched together like a coil of twine. 7:58. He glanced at Shay. "I thought you said the treasure would come to us." She nodded eagerly. "It'll be a wonderful surprise." They waited in total silence for the 2 minutes, which felt like 10. No one moved. No one breathed. The captain's watch ticked. Tick, tick, tick. He shifted in place. His toes squirmed, causing the tips of his boots to rise and fall. He chewed his lip and scratched his scars. The second hand ticked and ticked until finally it reached 12. Nothing happened. No ray of light illuminating a box of gold. No giant message in the clouds. Nothing. "Riggs!" Captain Bogg shouted. "Aye, Captain, I've 8 o'clock as well." A whirring sensation quivered in Jed's wrist. "Captain," he said, "the watch." The 6 hands spun. Captain Bogg grabbed his wrist. "Where is it? Where is the treasure? How could we have missed it?" He glared at his own watch. His fingers tightened around it, and Jed thought he might chuck it off the ship. "What happened to the treasure?" he asked again, turning to Shay. Her face beamed with delight, and she rocked in place. She bit her bottom lip and giggled. "Well?" The captain clutched his watch so tightly his palm turned white. "Where is it?" She clapped her hands, then opened her arms, closed her eyes, and spun in place. "It's all around you!" Captain Bogg looked frantically in every direction. "I can't see anything!" "Boom!" Shay yelled. A second later, thunder cracked through the sky. The crew stood frozen. Another crack shattered the empty air. Sprocket's hand leaped to the butt of her shatterbox. A cool breeze fluttered over the ship. Captain Bogg spun in place as if some giant invisible enemy were looming over him. And then Sprocket yelled, "Junk storm!" The captain sucked in a breath. "Sprocket, get us out of here! Go, now!" Sprocket bolted to the helm. The rear propeller whirred to life and Bessie lurched forward. "Faster!" Captain Bogg yelled. "Riggs, engine room!" Sprocket jammed a lever into place. The gears in the ship's hull whined as motors spun wildly. The cool breeze washed over the deck of the ship, this time hitting with enough force to knock Jed off balance. He gripped a cable from the smokestack and held tight. The white clouds darkened into gray. They swirled together and the color blackened. "Riggs!" the captain yelled through the floor. "I don't care if Bessie's engines won't work for a month. You get her moving!" Sprocket yanked on the helm controls, and Bessie shot forward. The gears screeched as the propeller spun faster still, its blades now a translucent blur. The deck rattled under the added pressure. The massive black cloud above tightened in on itself and began to swirl, bathing them in shadow. A cone poked down from its center and widened into a funnel. Wind slapped the ship and threw Jed to the railings. He clutched the bars and peered over the boat. The junk below rattled against the wind. "Sprocket, up ahead!" Kaiser shouted. Junk began falling from the black clouds like giant metal raindrops. A ladder flipped through the sky end over end. It smacked the side of the boat and disappeared below. A tape measure clattered on the deck, then a candle, and a coat hanger, and "Watch out!" Jed yelled as a washing machine headed straight for them. At the last second, Sprocket pushed a lever and Bessie jerked to the side. The washer flew by Jed's face with a dense whoosh. "Shatterkegs on the main deck, now!" Captain Bogg shouted. Pobble and Kaiser sprinted to the lower deck. Shay still spun and giggled in a manic dance. A dark object flipped through the sky directly over the bridge. "Piano!" Jed yelled. Sprocket yanked a lever. Bessie turned, but the piano clipped the side of the ship, ripping off railing and a chunk of the deck. A vacuum cleaner plummeted toward Jed. He dove and it crashed beside him. Before he could stand up, a tray of silverware pelted the deck and a spoon smacked him in the head. He wrapped his arms around a smokestack cable. "Make way!" Kaiser called. He and Pobble hefted a shatter keg up the stairs. They returned for a second one, which they rolled to Captain Bog. Stand them up on their ends and get them into the mounts," the captain yelled. "Jed, get over here and help." His voice was muffled by the wind and colliding junk tumbling through the air. Jed grabbed one of the barrels. With the captain's help, he propped it up until it pointed at the sky. They hugged the gun as the ship rocked against the wind. Captain Bog reached to the deck and lifted a small hatch. He pushed the shatter keg with his hip until it clicked into the opening. Pobble, Kaiser, and Shay lifted the second one into another mount. "Nothing hits this ship," the captain said. The others nodded, Shay with a smile. "Train car, 20 degrees starboard," Kaiser yelled. The front car of a train emerged from the black spiral. It turned slowly in the air. "Wait for it," Captain Boggs said. "Wait for it." Kaiser cranked a lever on his shatter keg, and a series of buttons lit up. When the train car was nearly on top of them, the captain yelled, "Fire!" Kaiser slammed his fist into one of the buttons. The shatter keg whistled. A cracking sound ripped through the air. A column of blue dust appeared from the tip of the barrel and ended at the train car. The massive car broke into pieces. The captain yanked a lever, and their shatter keg's buttons lit up. One of them was red. Jed's heart skipped a beat. If there was ever a time to trust his parents, now was it. He punched it. A crack sounded, and a volume of blue particles painted a line through the sky. Captain Boggs searched the open air. He studied the shatter keg, still searching the sky. "What was that for?" he yelled. I thought I saw something." "Don't touch the controls. If you even..." Before the captain could finish, the button turned red again. Jed threw his palm against it. The shatter keg whistled. Out of nowhere, a rogue jacuzzi tumbled up over the side of the ship, heading straight for the bridge. The shatter keg fired, and the blast slammed into the jacuzzi, bursting it to pieces. The others froze and stared at Jed as ceramic tiles clattered harmlessly around them. Captain Bogg nodded once. Jed nodded back. The thunder grew closer as more junk hit the ship. Objects beat against the hull, making terrible splintering sounds. Captain Bogg and Kaiser alternated shatter keg shots as Sprocket weaved through the falling debris. "I'm running out of charge," Kaiser said. "We're down to only a few shots here too," the captain said. "Save your fire for junk that will take us out of the sky." As if testing their resolve, a bookcase flipped toward the deck. "Hold!" Captain Bogg shouted. The bookcase exploded against the back of the ship. Jed couldn't tell which shattered pieces were from shelves and which were from Bessie. A life-size iron statue of a dachshund punched through the ship 5 feet from Jed's toes. Bessie's engine whined and popped. "We've lost power to one propeller," Sprocket called. "Keep her moving," the captain called back. Kaiser blasted a pickup truck away from the bridge, and the captain fired at a bunk bed. Junk rained over them, piercing the deck until it looked like a sieve. A metal file cabinet drifted toward Jed. The captain fired, but the beam missed. "Shoot it," he yelled to Kaiser. Kaiser mashed the buttons, but the shatter keg didn't fire. "We're out of juice. Take cover." Jed and the captain dove. The file cabinet hit the deck where they were standing, smashing the shatter keg into pieces. The crew huddled near corners, under railings, and in the bridge as debris cluttered around them. Wind gusted against Jed's face, forcing him to close his eyes and listen to objects tear the ship apart. The engine wailed and coughed. "Come on," Jed whispered to himself. "Push through. You can do it, Bessie." Just then Sprocket shouted from the bridge, "Clear skies ahead!" Jed opened his eyes. The edges of the black cloud were turning to gray. The howling winds began to die, and bits of sun peeked through the sky ahead. Sprocket's arms had been like machines themselves, cranking and twisting levers while her feet alternated between pedals. But as the sky cleared, her motions relaxed. Jed released the smokestack cable and collapsed. The propeller slowed, and Bessie's engine sighed in relief. Chapter 19. I'm going to keep going because I need to know what happens. The crew assembled, and excitement burned in their eyes. Shay seemed simply delighted. Captain Boggs stood up straight and held his hands behind his back. We've got an hour, maybe 2. Iron and copper will have seen that storm 100 miles away. We'll have falcons and wasps swarming the skies any minute, blasting anything not matching their own metal. Let's get in, get out, and make the most of this. They cheered with raised fists. We're going back? Jed asked. Of course we're going back, but what? Your girlfriend was right. Treasure map indeed. Junk doesn't get fresher than this. The crew cheered again. But you said copper and iron are coming. Captain Bog waved a hand as if that were the last thing on his mind. An hour at least, maybe 2. They never find storms before that. He patted Jed's shoulder and squeezed. Good work, Jed. No, excellent work. You deserve this. Shay might not think so, but I bet you're holding the first gilded relic we've seen since the javelin chase 3 decades ago. He turned to the crew. Let's hear it for Jed. The crew hollered into the sky. Even Kaiser offered a small nod. You know what? Captain Boggs said. Tonight, we should cook for you. Jed smiled. Imagine the captain stirring together canned chili, blackberries, and chicken noodle soup. Pablo gathered hiking packs, backpacks, suitcases, and shoulder bags, then dumped them into a pile. Riggs will search for supplies to patch up Bessie, the captain said. The rest of you get cans and batteries. Nothing else. Is that clear? They nodded. Let's move out, he said, throwing an army-style duffel bag over his shoulder. Sprocket set Bessie onto a dimple of space in the fresh junk pile. Jed strapped a hiking pack to his back and followed the others. Sunlight glittered over millions of untarnished metal surfaces. Where did it all come from? Jed wondered. It was as if it was sucked from his world and dumped into theirs. He stepped from the tug and sank to his knees in the unsettled pile. Cans of food crowded his legs, hundreds of them, thousands even, cans everywhere, piled in great heaps. He could fill his whole pack before taking 10 steps, and batteries dotted the fresh pile like sprinkles on a birthday cake. He set the pack on a pool table and scoured the cans. Whatever I want, he thought, all right here. He found sweet peas and garden fresh peas, field peas and chickpeas, black-eyed peas, wasabi peas, peas and carrots, and even purple hull peas. He held up one of the cans to his face. I don't even know what purple hull peas are. The stack of peas teetered on a pool table's green felt-covered slab. I could fill the whole tug with peas if I wanted. I could find anything. He found creamed possum, canned muffins, jellied eel, teriyaki frog legs, armadillo, whole squid, minced elk, hot wings, smoked rattlesnake, reindeer pate, Cajun-style alligator, shark fin, sheep tongue, barbecue worms, boar spread, and even something that said grass jelly on the label. Jed studied the picture of the purple gelatin cubes. They looked nothing like grass or jelly. Sorry, but you're staying here for now. He tossed the grass jelly, creamed possum, and jellied eel back into the piles. The others were simply too exciting to pass up. Canned muffins sound questionable, but were worth a shot. He'd try anything once. Well, maybe not grass jelly. He picked up a yellow can. Lemon pie filling. He could almost smell the baking pie crust, almost see his mother fiddling with the broken knob on the stove, grumbling about cheap plastic and old appliances. He could almost hear his father's shh as he snuck into the kitchen and snatched her into his arms. She'd giggle and flail as he tossed her onto his shoulder, her yellow-ruffled, sauce-stained, flour-dusted, daisy-spotted apron flapping against his face. You're blinding me, woman, he'd say, struggling to push the fabric away from his eyes without releasing his captive. Jed's throat went dry. The lemon filling was suddenly heavier than it had been a moment ago. He held it in both hands and stared at the happy picture of fresh-baked pie. Why did you leave me? He whispered to the can. Why did you do this? This isn't Yellowstone National Park. It's not some camping trip. I don't even know what this is. I could barely find food before today. How am I supposed to find you? Are you talking to a can? Captain Boggs' voice bellowed behind him. Jed looked up. No. Did it say something interesting? You sounded pretty sweet and mushy. Were you two getting to know each other? Middle names, favorite colors, that sort of thing? I wasn't talking to a can. Captain Bogg rubbed his chin. Interesting. Either A, you don't know what the word talking means, or B, you don't know what cans are, because you were holding one and you were talking to it. Whatever. Well, wrap up the conversation before the fleets come and blast us down, steal our tug, and ship us off to the iron prisons. Would they really do that? Definitely. Coppers are just crazy. Irons, they think they're righteous and noble, and that murder, robbery, and forcing people to dig for them is all for the greater good of the sovereign. Jed tried to decide if he was being serious. Tell you what, chit-chat with any scrap of food you'd like once Bessie's plump with loot. You can have all the privacy you want. I bet Shay would love to join. Just you, Shay, and your can. How does that sound? I wasn't talking to a can, Jed muttered as he tucked the pie filling into his pack with an armful of other cans without even checking the labels. Good choice, Captain Bog said. Nice talk. Jed turned and stalked back to the ship. He emptied the pack into the mess. Within an hour, the shelves were stocked so full that Pobble had to pile cans on the floor. Cans to last a month, Captain Bog said. Everyone unload and take one more trip for batteries. By the time Bessie lifted into the air, the mess was a mound of cans, and the crew had so many batteries that the cooking bathtub was half full of them. Take us out, the captain said. What's our heading? Sprocket called. Captain Bog lifted his chin. Dawn Drake, let's celebrate. Aye, aye. Drinks on me. The captain scooped a handful of batteries from the tub and tossed them into the air. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for right now. I was a little surprised when Shay said that they were waiting for the treasure, it would find them, and then that huge junk storm came. I didn't think that was treasure. I thought that was a bad thing because it was so scary and they had to evade all of it and use some of their ammunition to shoot things out of the sky that could have taken their ship down. But come to find out that that was a good thing because it brought all this new food and irons and batteries and all of the things that they can. So still haven't figured everything out, but I'm still really intrigued. So we will start again on chapter 20 when I come back to read again next time. So talk to you soon, my friends.